Welcome to Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. I'm Gavin Baulch, but later on in the program we'll be featuring one of the Street Talk interviews that we recorded last December with members of the public, and this was done in the Bourke St Mall in the city. But for now, our guest is Mary Collier from Right to Life Australia. Welcome, Mary.
Morning, Gavin. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Well, we had another little interesting chat before we sat down today, and part of where you had come from was crash, bang, buildings falling down. Where was that?
Well, I come from Christchurch, New Zealand, which has been earthquake-ridden for the last 4 years, I think. 12,000 earthquakes they've had. And my sister lost her home, my dad's sister lost her home, and there've been a lot of damage as well as mental health damage as well as physical damage there. Yeah.
So how long had you lived in Christchurch?
I lived there for 25 years, grew up there as a school student. Yeah.
And how often have you gone back since you've been living in Australia?
I usually go back once a year to reconnect with the family. I have a large family. I have 9 brothers and sisters, and mum and dad are still alive, so go back there and spend time with them, try and do something, some outdoor walking or cycling, something like that.
So you're not quite an extreme sports person, but you're pretty involved physically.
I'm not extreme at all. I don't have that risk-taking thrill. I don't get the thrill out of risk-taking,
Yes.
but I like to keep active. I do different sports all the time. All my life I've been active like that.
Okay, involved in cycling?
Yes, on a Saturday morning, a group of us in Melbourne, we go down to the beach, cycle and have coffee, come back. We're not like the Hell Riders down Beach Road, but yeah, it's a nice group, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, so your parents, now they kind of left you with a legacy. What was that?
Well, my dad was very much involved with social justice. Mum and dad are both Catholics, and we had a big family. And I suppose at the core we had to look after each other. And as well, we used to have foster children who weren't looked after. And always in life, Dad told us about looking after people who are worse off than ourselves or disadvantaged. Yeah.
Okay, so how many foster kids did you have? If there's 9 of you, then how did the family
Well, usually
grow?
we had one at a time. We had
Yes.
a lovely little boy who used to walk around and he'd sort of tug Mum's apron and say, "Lady," because he'd been to so many homes. And in fact, we didn't want to give him back. Then we had another one who was an older girl who used to climb out the top windows and smoke outside on the veranda. So, yeah, we had a few different, probably 3 or 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
lovely, lovely. So life is very important to you.
Yes, I think connection with family is very important, and just enjoying life. And I think my background, my faith has been important over the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come to Australia and 2008, why was that a significant year for you?
Well, I suppose I'd had a career all my life, and a good career. I used to be a dietitian, and I worked my way up in management, and I was a project manager, and I actually developed breast cancer, and so it was a very emotional year of a lot of treatments. I lost my hair, and as a woman, we're very vain about ourselves sometimes, and to lose your hair it makes you feel like you're a prisoner and you may not survive. And radiotherapy and surgery, that was a pretty tough year. And particularly I used to do ballroom dancing, which I still do, but I didn't want to go because I suppose in some ways I felt ashamed of being unwell. Yeah. And because I was recuperating, I couldn't work. So that was a big year.
So you were kind of reorganising priorities, and I believe that you were walking past a billboard or a hoarding, and what changed your direction?
Yes, I was doing some accounting studies just to keep my brain going, and I walked past a building that had, it was something like Right to Life, and I remember thinking, well, Dad was involved in that. What is he doing? What was he doing all those years? He was on the committee and he used to fold brochures and Mum helped. So I thought, oh, maybe I could volunteer. So I went in and did a little bit of computer work for them. And at that point, Margaret Tighe was looking for someone, and she said, oh, what are you doing? And I said, well, nothing really. And she said, would you like to help us with our 2010 election campaign? And I thought, well, that can't be that hard. So that's how I started.
Wow, okay. And you became more passionate about this cause, Right to Life.
Well, as I learnt more about it, and I didn't really understand, but because I have a medical background, I knew how the body functioned and about pregnancy and the baby developing. And as I became more involved, and because my life had been on a precipice, you know, I didn't know whether I would survive. I learnt about, you know, abortion in a much bigger framework and actually just technically what happens. And so I became involved from that part of the passion, yeah.
All right, so you're personally a thinker, you're active, you have a voice. Did some of these new ways of looking at life suggest to you that there are those without a voice and you wanted to be their voice?
Yeah, that's definite. I remember one of the things my dad said, and I didn't understand it, was when you vote, you should vote for the person who can't vote. Don't vote for yourself, because everyone's voting for themselves. So you vote for the voiceless. And I didn't understand who the voiceless were, but the unborn is voiceless, yeah. And I feel proud of that job. Mm.
Good. Well, I'm glad that you're making that kind of stand. And after the break, we'll talk further about some of the activity, and we're going to put some of our energy into walking.
Good.
You're watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Baulch, and our guest is Mary Collier. Mary, we talked about New Zealand and Christchurch and earthquakes. We talked about your physical activities, cycling, etc. But there's another physical activity that perhaps we could all get involved in, and it's a walk. So what is this walk?
Well, Gavin, this walk is on every year for Right to Life. It's one of our major fundraising activities, and this year we're having it up on the rail trail in northern Victoria. A couple of years ago we had it on the Great Ocean Walk, which was spectacular. And there's two functions. One is witnessing for the unborn, and the second one is fundraising. But in addition, there's a camaraderie function, because a lot of the pro-life people don't know anyone else who's pro-life. In fact, I had a young student who said she'd like to come, but she said, I don't know anyone who I could get to sponsor me. I know no one who's pro-life. And so these are the sort of difficulties that people are facing. So we have 3 days, the 23rd, 24th and 25th of May. So hopefully more people can register or provide us with sponsorship money. You may like to sponsor a particular person. So if people call me, I can write that person's name, or give them details. The good part is that you have to walk 60 kilometres. So that's just first 2 days, and it's on the rail trail. So that was an old rail path where now it's been converted to a cycling and walking path. So it's very good underfoot. It's not muddy or potholes. We provide the accommodation and the food. And the third day is going to be an exciting route around the goldfields, which it's called the Indigo Gold Trail, and it's around all the old goldfield sites in one area that have waterfalls, sleuth buckets, those types of things.
Wow. Yeah. Well, perhaps if the gold panning picks up on that day, it might add to your fundraising.
Hopefully, yes. There will be a few people who like to pan.
Yes.
The other option is if you can't walk, you could come along as a support person. There's a festival that's on that time of year. There's 2 or 3 fantastic wineries. There's the Beechworth Bakery. So there's a lot of good op shops around the area. So we'll have a shuttle bus that's supporting the walkers. So if you can't walk, you can be part of the action by coming in the shuttle bus.
Well, now that's a pretty full program, and you're working behind the scenes. So how much time are you putting into this so it's successful?
Well, it usually takes me about 2.5 months. The most difficult part is getting the permits, and we have had a lot of difficulty with councils who see us as an extremist group and don't want to give us permits. Last year, this year we had a very good relationship with the council, and in fact one of the managers of the rail trail met me for coffee and my colleagues last Tuesday. We went up to look at the area and he went through every single step of the way to assist us. Then you've got organised food, who's coming, registration, maps are really important. We took 2 days on last week, and we went right through the route and looked at where we're stopping for lunches, afternoon teas, drink points. And I took an external event organiser so that we had like a buddy that wasn't just looking at it from our point of view. So hopefully we've covered every base.
Wow. You know, it's interesting how we're seen. Those who oppose right to life, those who would want to interrupt or oppose this walk in particular, espouse tolerance, and yet they're extremely intolerant towards one or two groups, and usually with any Judeo-Christian sort of background or input. And when, of course, people have coffee with us, they find that we're not just ordinary like them, but there's a reason why we support life, and we support them as well. They have a right to live their life, study, etc. Why this vitriolic response that we are the people who are called intolerant? So it's interesting, isn't it?
I think also that they have a view that we're outside places and we're wearing flared pants from the 70s. They don't think that we're professionals who have learnt and studied. One of the other people in the office is a lawyer, and as I said, I'm a dietitian, and Margaret, who is in charge, who's the president, she's a pharmacist. So we have people who have come from backgrounds where they've had professional, expertise. And so then when people meet us, they go, oh, well, they are kind of normal. And the way we have to market ourselves with these fundraising walks is we also have a pregnancy counselling hotline, which is 24 hours a day for any mother who's in crisis. And indeed fathers, we have fathers ring up. So if they've got a crisis pregnancy, they can call us and we pay all the telephone bills. We also supply support for mothers. Some of my colleagues have had pregnant mums in their home. So we do a lot of support work as well. But one of our key purposes in our statement of purposes is that we are a political action group. So other groups may have other specific purposes, but that's our key purpose, one of our key purposes. Yeah.
All right. With the walk, how many people normally attend? What was last year's walk?
Last year we actually had 6 councils, so that was hard to coordinate. We probably had about 30 walkers. This year we'll have at least 30, and the year before we had 30. In the past they had bigger numbers, and they used to walk for a week, and they walked on the roads. So all of those factors have changed now because people can't take leave, to walk. And a lot of the people who walked in the past have now got older and are prepared to give us money, but they can't walk themselves. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what's the age group that normally are able to come, either take the time off or find the time?
Well, we've got students who are, because it's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we've got students who are 18, and we've got older people till about, one man's actually 80, and he's an ultra marathon runner, used to be. Another man's 82, so any age group. Good.
Well, that might include me.
Terrific. Yes.
I need to consider the walk. I need to walk a little more than what I'm doing. And there's probably others just like me who would like to just meet with folks, walk with them, see some scenery, and know that it's not just a good cause, but we're walking for the rights of the unborn.
Yes. Thank you.
You're watching Support Life, and that's all of our conversation with Mary until next week. But stay tuned, because after the break we'll be back with one of the Street Talk interviews. and we recorded these in December with members of the public in the Bourke St Mall in the city of Melbourne.
Welcome to Support Life on Channel 31. Do you consider you value human life, and why?
Yes, I do value human life. I've been really fortunate in my family. I've not had anyone close to us die, and so not that you think about it, but I value being able to have my family, my friends, all of that around me. I think it's really important, and I've got 2 young children, and I think that really brings it home about you can be reckless in your own life and make your own choices. However, when it's somebody else that you've then got responsibility for, it changes the way you think and feel about things. So you drive a bit safer. So I would say I value life and that of others.
Tell us, what do you know about the current abortion law in Victoria?
Not too much. I hear a little bit on 774 and those sorts of stations when these things become topical in the news, but no, I wouldn't know a lot about.
Have you or anyone you know ever been affected by the loss of a loved one? And how did that make you feel?
I've never lost anyone close, not friends or family. So it kind of makes me a bit nervous actually, because it'll be someone very close when it does happen, I think.
If you heard that a pregnant woman died, for example in a car accident, would you consider the child in her womb as a second death or not?
This probably then comes a bit into, I've got a background in health, and so I would say how far pregnant was she and those sorts of things. Did she even know that she was pregnant or... there's a whole heap of things that you'd need to consider in making a decision about that. Obviously, if she was heavily pregnant, yes, you would, and it was a baby that could survive in its own rights without a heap of medical intervention, because I think medical intervention probably pushes the boundaries a bit too far. And so, we can save everybody's life all the time now, and it's really pushed and pushed and pushed. And so I think if the child could have survived on its own, in its own right, then yes, of course, you would have considered that a loss.
When does human life begin?
Well, it depends if you're looking for the technical, that happens pretty quickly. But I think for my mind, it's... I guess when I felt pregnant, it was when I started feeling the first sort of kicks and those sorts of things that really became a reality for me. It was like, there really is something there, and it's part of you, and I'd say around that stage, sort of, anything beyond 12 weeks, once you actually know and your head's in that space, I think.
Under what circumstances would it be justifiable to terminate a child in the womb?
I think it's actually up to the individual. So it's not just the mother's circumstances, but it's also the circumstances in which that child's going to be raised and the type of life that it'll be exposed to. And I think, when you're talking about Australia, that's a really affluent country. As I said, we've got really good medical interventions, all those sorts of things. We continue to push those boundaries, and so we're saving, babies as young as 16 weeks. And then what sort of quality of life do they then have after that? So I think there's a whole variety of issues that really need to come into play about, a person's capacity to actually take care of the child, but then the type of life that child's going to have, even if it's not the mother that takes care of them, if it's other people that come in to support through adoption and those sorts, it's still, it's the quality of life as well.
Do you think people are influenced by political and social pressure to abort a child?
I wouldn't say that political pressure as much, but I would say there is social pressure, and there's social things that are accepted, and it depends on where you live and your circumstances and those sorts of things, and it also depends on who your friends and family are and what their beliefs are. I think that all comes into it, and from a political side of things, I don't know, I mean, politics does play a part in it, but I kind of don't think people go, actually the Prime Minister may not really like me having an abortion, I'm not going to do it. I think they're going to go, hang on, my family, friends, what are they going to think about this? No, I'm not going to do it, or yes, I'm going to do it because it's accepted.
In Australia, 100,000 unborn children are aborted yearly. What do you think of this?
Look, it's a really high figure, but then I guess you've got to look at how many babies are born and how many people are trying to have babies. Like, there's a whole, it's one figure amongst a lot of others, and so I'd want to know what are the other statistics around and what sits behind that, and then you really need to know the circumstances around those particular cases as well. Yeah, you know, you don't know the circumstances in which those children have been aborted, and you know, if there was a risk to the mother, medical risk, and she could have died, do you say that that unborn life is worth more than that woman surviving? And so, you know, do you do a life for a life? It makes it really difficult. Yeah.
Would you be motivated to stand up and say something for people's rights, especially the unborn?
I think it would really, as I said, it really would depend at, you know, what the actual issue was, a bit more detail about what the issue was about. So not just a child's unborn, are you going to stand up for their rights? It being more about the circumstances behind, you know, if all of a sudden for Schoolies Week there was heaps of abortions happening as a result of that, then you might say something about that and say that there's a cultural issue there and something needs to change. But if it's about people who are making informed decisions and all of those sorts of things, then that's their choice. And I guess there's that balance between when you would step in and when you wouldn't. Gender selection process. Well, look, I've got 2 girls and my partner is very, you know, strongly wanting a boy. And I'd love to have a boy as well, but it's like any IVF process. I think it's, you don't know what you're going to get, and pregnancy, you don't know what you're going to get, and I'm quite happy to wait. And if we have 3 girls, we have 3 beautiful girls. If we have a boy, that's fantastic as well. But I can understand, you know, why people do it, and it's their choice to do that. And there are also genetic reasons that people select the gender of their children because of hereditary diseases that they've got. If they have another daughter, they're going to end up quite unwell, whereas they know if they have a male. Yeah, personally, I wouldn't do it, but as I said, you know, people have their own reasons why they do things, and I respect other people's choices and those sorts of things. But yeah, personally, I wouldn't do it.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Claire.